Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan, here with my wonderful wife, Laura.
Hello.
And we're going to take a quick look and review of the great game, Sorry, from, it could be as early as 1951 up to 1963.
Yes, well, this particular one we've got here is from 1963, but the rules seem to come from the 1951 version. We'll kind of explain that more as we go. It's a bit of a unique copy of the game, Sorry.
Obviously, you can probably see from the artwork, it's quite a lot different than what you can sort of get these days.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a Japanese design to it, which is weird because this one was manufactured in Australia. Specifically the state we live in, Victoria, so...
By Murfitt, so...
Really odd. So let's go over the other side. Not a lot on the back.
Each player tries to be the first to get his men around the Japanese garden. Men, or the playing pieces are referred to as men in this. But as there is only one path, people will get in the way.
Yeah, so I guess there's a story to it. You're going around the Japanese garden. So, I don't know, I just find it quite odd.
So here's the instructions. We'll have a scan of it down below so you can sort of, if you've got this particular version, which is a bit different than the versions.
Than the modern versions.
Yeah, not too different, but there's enough there that it's pretty useful.
It's worth having these instructions if you find one of the older ones, or if you could use a newer set to play with some of the older rules that we're going to talk about.
Yes, they're both compatible.
Today. Yeah. Alright, so let's show the board. That continues the Japanese garden theme.
It's quite a nice looking board. It really just sort of pops, all the colours.
Yeah, you've got all nice little trees behind it, and it keeps like a little floral garden symbol in the safety zones here as well. Yeah, it's a relatively small board as well.
Compared to, I think, the traditional Sorry these days, which I think's quite
more
a lot...
standard
standard size.
Yeah. So the general gameplay of this is exactly the same as the modern Sorries that you can buy today. You have 4 pieces at the start.
For men.
For men in this game, yes. You have to get then around the board, back into your home to get all 4 of your men. Sorry, I keep going to call them pieces. All 4 of your men home. And
as per usual, it uses cards to control the movements, not a die. So that was the same back then as it is with the current versions now.
Yes. So in this particular version, we just have some plastic playing pieces. We're missing the
all of
orange,
yellow,
orange or yellow. Yep. But 3 of the other colours we do have some of there. They're just pretty standard. The box has the little kind of floral design in it as well, though.
So they've got like just Sorry on the backs, and they say very similar to what the new ones say. Ooh.
Yep.
Move 1 man forward 8 squares. Start a man out on move 1 man forward 2 squares. Draw again, so you can get one out of your start.
Yep. So if you've never played Sorry before, what you do is, like I said, you start with 4 of your pieces in your start space. You then take a card each turn and you have to follow what it says. To get out of your start space, you do need, I think it's the 2 or the 1.
Or the Sorry card, I think. You can move one out to...
Or the Sorry card, which Nathan will show when he finds one.
Start a man out or move 1 man forward 2 squares. So that's one you can use to get out of your start.
Yep. So you can see that card has an option on it. You can choose which thing you want to do. If you've already got enough men out of your start, you can then obviously... Sorry, I was talking about this one. You took it away. Instead, you can move forward 2 squares and then draw again. So, just depends, a bit of strategy during the game.
Speaking of strategy, all these older games are very long-winded, I think, with like their instructions, and particularly this card. So the Sorry card is like, the premier card in the game.
Yeah, the best thing you can
Basically, you can take any man from your start, place it on any margin square occupied by any opponent, and return that opponent's man to its start. So in other words, you can take one out of your start, and if another player is anywhere else on the board, you take their place and that particular piece goes back to their home.
Yeah, so if red picked up that card, they can go, yeah, I can get my man out of start. I'm going to swap with green, who's out here. The margin squares are the ones on the margin, the outside of the board. This one then goes back to the start. You can't do that with anyone who is in the safety zone.
Or in the home, obviously, because they're super safe.
They're already safe, exactly. So basically, you go through this backwards and forwards, taking it turns, using the cards. You reshuffle if you run out of cards. until you get home. You do have to get home by exact count.
Which can be a pain, because if you're in the safety zone and you get a move back 4, you have to take the movement, even if it disadvantages you.
Yes.
So, for instance, if I was here and I said move back 4 and it was the only man I had out, everyone else was either at home or in the start, I'd have to move forward, backwards, out into the margin.
You'd have to move backwards 4, yes.
Back out to the margin, and I wouldn't be safe anymore.
Then other people can get you. So, not only can you take people and put them back on the sorry card, but you can also do that if you land on them as well.
If you land on them, it's the same as sending them back to their home.
Oh, I've landed on you. Ta-da! Back to start.
I will also mention when you're basically if you're forced to take a move, the same thing, reverse applies. If I'm here and it's the only man I can move, and I get, say, a move for 12, I can't obviously do that, so my turn's just forfeit.
Yes. If you can move, basically, you have to move based on the card, even if, like you said, it's not good for your game. The only time you can't is if you just physically cannot go there. Like, you might get a piece that's a card that says take something out of start. You might not have any left.
No, so the card's null and void.
You can't do that, obviously. You also can't land on yourself. So obviously if you land on someone else, they go back to start. But if you had another piece out here, you can't make this move. Which
would be, if that was the only move you could make, would be an invalid move, and you would not have a turn anymore.
Or if you did have 2 out and you had got a 3, I don't think there's 3s in it, is there? Say, just for this example that we did have those, you can't move 3 there, so you'd have to move the other one instead.
Shall we discuss the little sliding arrows?
Sure.
So basically, if I'm, say, playing as red, and I land on the start of a green arrow sort of pointing this way,
or yellow or blue.
Yellow, I slide all the way to the end. So it's basically serves 2 purposes. 1, you get a bit further along quicker. And 2, if anyone happens to be in this sliding space and I move here and slide, they immediately get sent back to home or start too.
Yes. You can only slide on colours that are not your colour, however.
So I couldn't land, if I landed on the red, I could not make that move.
No, you just have to stop there, just as you would if it was any other space.
And if I happen to have another red, if there was a red piece here and I was red and landed here, I can also take my own piece out by mistake.
Yes, you don't have a choice on that one. It's the only time you can send yourself back. You can't physically land on yourself just by normal count. The slide is the only way you do that, so you want to kind of watch out. You never really want to be sending yourself back to the start unless it's the only move you can make.
No, so basically it plays very similar to the modern ones, except there seems to be an extensive scoring system in different ways you can play, which as far as I'm aware aren't in the later modern versions.
No, so everything we've explained so far, if you buy a new one from, Big W or something, that's what you're going to get, those rules. This version of Sorry, however, goes on to explain how you score at the end of the game.
So it's similar to, I guess, if you're playing a scored game of Uno. So at the end of each round, points are tallied up depending on how the game ended, and then you'd keep playing more games until you, I assume, get to...
I think it's 500 or something.
Yeah, an agreed value or something, so...
This one doesn't mention any agreed value or how many times to play the game. We were talking about this beforehand. We've only ever really played one at a time, so scoring never really occurred to us. But here's what you do. So you play the game, standard rules that are still in effect today. Then you get 1 point at the end of the game for every man you have home.
So for instance, say, let's just do an example. Say I get all my people or my men home.
Do we have another? Grab another one. They would all have to be the same colour.
Obviously.
We just happen to have grabbed different
So
ones.
I would get 1, 2, 3, 4 points straight away for getting all 4 of my men home.
For winning the game. Sorry, I've just knocked the camera there. Then from there, it gets a little confusing. So you get your 4 points, and then you get 1 point for every opponent's man not home. So say Nathan as the winner gets his 4. Say I was playing over here and I only had 1 home.
Which means you had 3 not home.
Yep. So you would get 3 extra points for that. That's then called the normal score.
So base score at the end of the game, you do that first, and then there is more.
And then there's some extras. So you can then win a slam. Yeah, to win some extra points.
Depending on how many pawns or men got home or didn't get home.
By your competitors.
Yes.
Yes. So you can win a grand slam. So if you get all 4 of yours home and the other players that you're playing against got none home, you get an extra 24 points.
So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. That's like if you won the game 6 times.
It's a good deal of points. So if you are playing this kind of points version, you really want to try and go fast. You can then also get a tri-slam if you don't get the grand slam, which is if your opponents have no more than one man home. You get 16 points for that. If everyone else you're playing against has no more than two, that's called a bi-slam, and that gives you 8 points onto your normal score as well.
So just winning doesn't give you many points at all, but if you happen to win and the other person has got almost none home, it sort of makes the points a bit pointless. Sorry for the pun, because if I get, say, 24 points plus 4, it's 28 points.
Plus everything that everyone had home or didn't have home.
Yeah, so I don't really understand why they implemented it.
And again, I don't think we've ever played, let's play 5 games in a row, and I just...
Some of these take a long time to play, depending on the luck of the cards.
Yeah, they can do. So that's then what they consider the normal game in this edition of Sorry. We then have some other options if we don't want to play the standard game, which is Partnership Sorry is the next one.
Which means you have 2 teams of 2. I think one person is like yellow and red, and the other one's like blue and green, or some sort of combination.
So the opposing corners always play together, so you do have to have 4 players for this version, so that you can have 1 at each corner.
It plays very similar to the base game, with the key difference that if I pull up a card, I can then either move my own men, or I can choose to move my partner's men.
Yep. So if we were playing as green and blue together, and I picked up a card for me, but I went, it doesn't really help my blue pieces that much, I can then move my partner's green ones to advantage. That could be a disadvantage as well, because you're spoilt for choice if they're all out. Yep. You can, unfortunately, also still send your partner back to their start space if that's the only move you can make and you land on them.
Yeah, friendly fire.
Friendly fire, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if you're forced to make a move and it happens to impact your partner via a slide or a land on, then yes, they will get sent back to their start space.
Yeah, which is kind of frustrating when you're working with them to win, but hey, that's what that is. So plays a little bit different.
I think the only difference is the scoring at the end. Yet again, is a different scoring method.
There is, yeah, which then adds an extra frustrating layer to it. So
Laura's reading instructions.
I've got the instructions because it's a little bit confusing. So when one player, just one, has all of his men home, then you keep playing the game. So if your partner isn't home yet, you still have to draw cards, even though you don't have your pieces to move. You then move your partners at all times.
Which means they're basically moving double the pace.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fine. Then the first set of partners to get all 8 men between the two of them, to their proper homes, then wins the game.
Yes.
Fun times. No, that's not where the scoring comes in. So with the Partnership Sorry version, if you and your partner both get all 4 of them home before either of the people in the other partnership make any complete ones home, it's considered a double game, and it's the equivalent score of winning 2 single games.
Which means you get 8 points.
You get more points, yeah. Same scoring as in what they consider the base normal game, but just doubled.
Yes, well that makes sense because you've got double the people playing.
I guess so. But then wait. There's more. There's also Points Sorry.
Which I actually think, even though the point system is a little bit funky, this particular version is actually quite unique, is that you actually have a hand of 5 cards with you at all times.
So they get dealt to you at the start of the game.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you basically play this. You can play any card in your hand for your turn.
That then goes on the discard, and then you take another one. You have to have 5 at all times.
And then it pretty much plays the same as a regular Sorry, except you've got a deck of 5 cards that you can choose from.
You're not just at the mercy of the one card you pick up. So you were saying there's a bit more strategy involved because you can think about your the 5 cards you've gotten in advance and work out what you want to do.
Which theoretically you could do with a modern version these days too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could play any of these optional ones. With that Points Sorry version, you also start with one of your people out on your start space.
Just by default.
So you can automatically start moving even if you don't have a card that is useful.
Speaking of a card not useful, if you find yourself that you can't play a card, you can then discard one and draw another one.
Yeah, obviously it means you're forfeiting your turn, but that's something that happens sometimes in normal Sorry anyway if you can't move. This Points Sorry, however, then at the end of the game has its own set of points.
Which is completely different to the partnership and the single game.
Right, so then if you're the winner, you get 20 points, 5 points for each of the men you got home. everyone who didn't finish gets 5 points for every man that they did make home. So, you might earn 5 points, 10 points, or whatever. Obviously, you're not going to earn 20 because that would have made you won. Now, that's the normal score. So then there's 100 extra points that are added to that normal score of the winner if no one else got any men home.
Like a grand slam in the single game.
Exactly, but they've changed the amount. And they didn't call it a grand slam, so it's a little bit odd. You get 50 points if opponents have no more than 1 man home, or 25 if they have no more than 2. So
it's very similar, it's just the point values are different.
Yeah,
for no
and they
particular
just
reason.
don't call them that, they just call them the amount of points. There's also then the doubling option in this particular point scoring version, which is a little bit weird.
I'm doubling. Are you going to accept?
Yeah, so at any time, someone can say that and go, double.
And which means that any points for that game, at the end of the game, whoever wins, are then doubled.
Yes.
If Laura goes, nah, I don't think I'm going to win, then I automatically get, 25 points, I think?
Yeah, so if Nathan called double and then I said, no, I don't want to double or redouble, it mentions, then I have to drop out of playing the game. And if then there's only one person left, the person that called the double, they win, which gives them 25 points.
I suppose if you're really far behind, you're like, damn, I'm not going to get any of my pieces home, and then you go double, I'm going to maul you, and I'm like, no, let's just call it now. I suppose that would work, but
it seems a little bit pointless. I can definitely understand why some of these extra rules, like the special partnership rules, the points, I don't think are in any of the modern versions. Correct us if we're wrong. I mean, we haven't obviously reviewed every single edition of Sorry.
And this is a pretty old one, so...
Yeah, so these rules in particular do say 1951, even though this particular release was in the 60s. We do have a more modern standard Sorry up on the channel. I think we've got a playthrough of that. I might try and link that below if I remember. Check that out if you want to just see the base standard rules that they sent out today.
I think you mauled me in that too, if I recall.
I can't remember. But yeah, this one adds a lot more complexity that I don't think is necessary, personally.
If you take away those complexities, it's just a standard game of Sorry.
Exactly. And if you do have a modern one and you want to play the rules, there's nothing stopping you.
No.
There'll be a link down below. So, I don't know, maybe you prefer it with points.
Go bananas. Take your men around the Japanese garden.
Why not? If you enjoyed watching this video, give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments section down below, do you normally play multiple games of Sorry that you could do that sort of scoring method?
We don't have enough time to play multiple games.
Hit that subscribe button and check back soon. We have videos every single Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.